Linear. Can you hear me?
Oh,
Yes.
yes.
Yeah, it's a process. It's not linear. Some days are more difficult than others, but overall, I have found a lot of strength and peace, that I didn't think was possible.
Funny how that happens, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah. It's just a matter of not giving up and just continuing to trust in a higher power, whatever that means for me. I don't want to say for you
Yeah,
because I don't know what journey you're in, but yeah,
that is progress.
yeah. Thank you.
So we
Okay,
have
right?
about a 6-minute countdown timer.
Hmm.
Okay. Uh,
Uh, some days you could have a lot of negative talk in your head, and some days you have days where you're, maybe you just.
What do you do when you get that negative talk?
Well, my therapist said you take that thought and then you accept it and you let it go. You move on. You say, I'm not going to take that. I mean, I thought about it. Okay, and I'm throwing it away, and then I move
Beautiful,
on.
beautiful
Kind of
sentiment. That is a
hard. It's
beautiful
kind of
thing.
hard, but
Oh, it's not hard. Do you know that you can only have one thought at a time?
yeah, that is true. I think, yeah.
Yeah, that's why I say if you can only have one thought at a time, why let it be negative?
Well,
Keep it on
sometimes
the
it just
positive.
happens. Like it just you can't control the thought, but you can control what you do with it. That's what she said. So you can have a negative,
oh,
like you're not going to be able to stop the negative thought, but when you get it, throw it out, accept it, and move
There
on.
you
And I
go.
don't,
There
I'm
you
not,
go.
I'm not going to go down that road because you could.
hello. Hello, Mary Reed. Hi.
Hello, everybody.
Right?
Mary, do you want you sound good? I can hear you loud and clear. Do you want to test anything? Maybe do you want to test the share screen on your end or anything at all?
I think I'm good. This is a different view than I normally have. But yeah, I'm fine. If you guys are okay, I'm cool.
I
All
have
right.
a view. I have a view where I see everybody in a little box on one screen. I like it because I see everybody. Is that what we're supposed to look at? I
Yeah, that's
guess.
usually a gallery view, and I don't have that
Oh,
option on this. I have
oh,
my side gallery, but I don't have
yeah, I
um
like it.
regular gallery, but that's okay. Whatever it is fine.
All right. So let's see. We have some new folks that Mary, did you bring some of your friends?
I did not. I didn't know I was supposed to.
Oh, well, you're always welcome to next time when we do it next year.
Okay.
Okay. So let's see. We have Lori Ashcroft. Hello, Lori. How are you? All right, very good. And we have who is MOU 289? Let me ask MOU to unmute. Is
Mhm.
MOU still with us? Oh,
Yep.
MOU just are you there, MOU?
Yep. I'm here.
Oh,
Mhm.
hello. All right. And so MOU, how did you discover us?
Um, I did the APS modules for the
Oh,
certification.
so that means Rita Cronice connected you. That's wonderful.
Yeah,
Welcome,
I
welcome.
get her emails to notify me of all the webinars, and this was on there, and I decided to hop on this morning.
All right. Well, you're most welcome. Let's see. Gagan, hello. How are you, Gagan? Let's ask Gagan to unmute. Gagan, are you there? Gagan, can you hear me? I'm sorry, Tino. Okay. Amrita. Hello, Amrita. How are you today? Let's ask Amrita to unmute. Amrita, are you there? Amrita?
Hi, I'm here.
Hello.
Just wanted to say hi. I didn't want to speak, if that's okay. I just wanted to listen this time around.
Oh, all right. Well, next time around, you'll be all talk.
Okay.
How about reflective Rita? Is that our friend Rita? Hello, Rita.
Hello,
Hi, how are you?
I'm here.
Very good, very good. Ruth Gonzalez, how are you today, Ruth Gonzalez? Ruth Gonzalez. Hello, Ruth.
Hi, Dan. Hello,
Hey,
all.
how you doing?
I am hanging in here. I think I had too much Thanksgiving.
Too much gravy?
Yes, you got it.
Oh yeah.
I apologize. I'm going to be off camera doing some wellness while I'm listening to this wonderful speaker.
Wonderful. That's you can do whatever you like because we have free will. All right.
Thank you.
Cindy. Hello, Cindy. How are you doing? Cindy, can you hear me?
I
Hello.
just was able to get myself unmuted. I'm doing well. Thank you for asking.
That's wonderful. And how did you discover us?
I got an email from Howard.
Oh, very good. Very good. Now that's Howard Cosell, everyone. She channeled him. Okay, Kira, hello. Welcome, Kira. I'm glad you could make it, Kira.
Hi, Dan. Were you channeling Yentl?
Yentl.
Was that can you hear me?
Of course I
Or
was, but
maybe I mixed up the musicals.
I believe I don't know. Is Yentl like fiction or is it for real? I don't know.
No, some song about Can You Hear Me? It's fiction.
Yeah,
Okay.
there was. She's right.
Oh yes,
Thank
yes.
you.
Papa, can you hear me? That
Papa,
was the song. That was it.
Papa, don't preach. I am
That's
losing
kind of like
sleep.
that too. I don't know.
Okay, we
Maybe.
have 8 seconds, you guys. Oh my God. I'm just
Dan, you have such a great voice.
Oh, thank you. I practiced singing for 30 years.
Wow, it's beautiful.
Wow.
You can tell, right? No, I'm
Oh,
just
yes.
kidding, you guys. Actually, my girlfriend thinks I'm a horrible singer. Of course, she's wrong, but you know,
But
okay.
your voice is fabulous.
Oh, thank you very much. Well, without further ado, oh, well, let me remove this. There's a pin here. Okay. Without further ado, I would like to welcome Mary Reed. Mary is a spiritual person, and she's also an author of many books, and she's widely traveled on the quest of self-discovery. And here she is to help us understand more about her and about life and about spirituality. Welcome, Mary Reed. Take it from here.
Thank you. Thank you. Hi, everybody. I'm not sure what I'm supposed to talk about here today. I just accepted Dan's kind invitation, and I don't know what people know about me or what your usual focus is here. So maybe just a little background, Dan, so I can shape what I'm going to say to be most helpful. Is that all right?
Yes. Oh, yes, Mary Reed.
So can you give me a little background on the group?
Okay, yes. It's a group that is intentionally for people who have mental health and addiction challenges to come together to discuss. But we welcome everybody. We've had people without these challenges who have their own challenges but don't identify with mental health or addiction to come together every Saturday to discuss spirituality and spiritual topics, and that is a very broad thing. So anything, life, death, everything in between. Near-death experiences, social challenges, you name it, and emotional experiences. We discuss this every week. And when we don't have a guest speaker, we just simply have a conversation with each other. Is that good enough?
Yeah, that's a good place to start, but so I'm not your normal spiritual person. I'm really out there on the mystical end of the continuum. And I'm curious if you've had other mystics join you before.
We had people who had spiritually transformative experiences. We've had people with near-death experiences. We've had Buddhists, and we had a person who claimed that he's able to speak to God and angels, and you know, everyone's welcome. We love hearing. We've even had atheists talk about atheism.
Good. Well, all right. Well, that's very helpful. Thank you. So let me just give a general background of my experiences, and then it might be just good to open it up to Q&A, and people can ask me because I've had a really, really wide range of experiences. Before I begin, though, can people just raise your hand if you already know about my background?
No.
Oh, you guys are in for such a ride here. Good. All right. So first of all, Dan, just thank you for the invitation, and I'm really happy to be here with all of you. I really enjoy meeting new people and sort of hearing the kinds of questions or perspectives that people bring. And I love the topic of spirituality, especially today, where that just means like this whole variety of things. It's not so in the box of religion. So I'm really happy to be here. I really appreciate the invitation. So just a little background to give you an overview of where I'm coming from. 24 years ago, I was an agnostic healthcare executive in Washington, D.C. I was doing clinical research, mostly in respiratory medicine and AIDS. I had a very, very big job, and I didn't care anything about spirituality. I wasn't raised religious. I've never read the Bible. I didn't have big questions about life. I just wanted to be normal and nice and help people. And so I was doing that through clinical research. And in the summer of 2000, I started hearing a voice. And it was very much like a vibration that just rose up in me. And I often say that that vibration felt like, you know, there's the famous singer Barry White. He has a bass voice, and when he would hit a bass note, there's like this after sound vibration that would come up. That's how that vibration felt in me, and it was translated as I'm supposed to be doing something very important. That's what that voice was that I kept hearing within me. You're supposed to be doing something very important, which I already thought I was because I was doing clinical research and respiratory medicine and AIDS. And so I tried to ignore it. I tried to ignore that voice, but it just kept coming and kept coming and kept getting more persistent and more pronounced. And after 6 months of that voice, there was a series of events that unfolded that really made me realize I'm going to have to figure out what this is because it would not go away. So I sought help from a psychotherapist friend of mine in Arkansas. And I said, look, I'm having this voice. I'm having these feelings of forgetting something very important, and I need help. So I flew to Arkansas, and she put me under hypnosis, or she was starting to put me under hypnosis. And suddenly I just went into the body and being of Jesus on the cross at his moment of crucifixion. Now, remember, I was agnostic, had no association with spirituality whatsoever. And the moment that I realized where and in whom I was, suddenly I just knew everything about humanity's evolution. I just got this instant download of how humanity has been evolving. And in that information, I watched exactly what caused the crucifixion. And it wasn't what my grandmother told me, that there had been betrayal by a disciple and some people in power who felt threatened by Jesus. What I watched cause the crucifixion was the momentum of a mindset. These ideologies of fear and conflict that had taken ages to cultivate and perpetuate and deeply entrench in the collective psychology or psyche. And I watched all of that momentum come to a head in the crucifixion of Christ and then continue on in different ways. I watched that mindset continue on. And in that experience, I actually had the death experience of Jesus, just like you hear in a near-death experience when somebody feels their spirit pulled out of the body and then the hovering. I had that exact experience. I felt Jesus's spirit pull out of the chest and then hover above the crowd. And as the spirit is there, now suddenly I can experience everything in every person who was at the crucifixion. I know who is filled with terror, who is filled with rage, who's filled with grief and guilt and all these various emotions. And I could feel it just like it was me. I was all these people simultaneously. And in this experience, regardless of any other emotion present in the people there, I saw a thread of sorrow. I saw a thread of sorrow stretching from all the way back to before time, and it went through every human heart throughout history, through the hearts of all those people at the crucifixion, and then all the way into current day humans. And so it's this thread of sorrow that every human has, and the source of that sorrow is our deeply held belief that we're separate from this thing that we call God. That we believe fundamentally we're separate from our creator, from our source of life itself. And that creates a constant undertone or thread of sorrow that we all carry in the human experience. Now, in that experience, I watched the evolution of Christianity continue on from there. And I watched all the exploitations of Christ's death. I watched kings and cardinals and bishops scrambling to carve out dominions century after century after century. And I watched death, I watched destruction, and most of all, domination again and again and again and again in the continuation of Christianity. Now, of course, there was goodness that came out of the evolution of Christianity, and there still is. But it was the way the goodness was being used. And that was that mankind at that time did not want a good Christ that healed. Mankind wanted a good Christ that conquered. And that was the big lesson there. That was my understanding of what happened in the continuation of Christianity. It continued in that conquering fear and conflict ideologies that had actually caused that. So I watched all of that sort of play out. Now, that lesson of using goodness like a weapon to try to conquer the bad has come around again and again and again and again in all of my metaphysical experiences. That experience that started December of 2000 was that just opened the floodgate. And then I started having all of these experiences spontaneously. So I've been having big, huge metaphysical experiences for 24 years. And they almost all relate to the origins of things that we think that are pertinent to understanding human experience. So for example, in that one, that was the beginning of the evolution of Christianity. And I've gone into the mind of Buddha at his moment of enlightenment, so the beginnings of Buddhism. I've gone into the origins of existence itself with the expression of God actually existing, the separation consciousness, the origins of separation consciousness, the origins of fear, these kinds of things. So my work now, all of these years later, has always been focused on the origins, and it's the origins, it's healing suffering at the origins. So that's the basis of my work, which you can tell now is not small. My work is never small in the scale. It's very, very, very big. So you might imagine, as somebody who has a high-rise office in Washington, D.C., doing clinical research, my world was very turned upside down when I started having these big experiences. You cannot talk about them. It's not like you can go to the water cooler and say, hey, guess what happened to me over the weekend? I went into the body and being of Jesus on the cross. Like you just can't, first of all, the words are almost impossible, but also you can imagine people would think you're crazy. So when these experiences started happening just spontaneously, then when I'm doing dishes or coming into or out of sleep, etc., it really just completely, profoundly confused my world because I could not understand what was happening to me. This is 24 years ago, so I couldn't jump on the internet and type in what is happening here. So I started going to therapist after therapist after therapist, trying to figure out what is happening to me. what do I do with all of this? What does one do with all of that kind of information, especially because I was agnostic, so I didn't have church or community or language or framework. I didn't have anything. And none of the therapists could help me. Obviously, some thought I was crazy. Some thought I had delusions of grandeur. Some actually believed me and then were intimidated and wanted me to help them, wanted me to explain why their boyfriend broke up with them or should they leave their career or these kinds of things. So everywhere I went, I saw more than 40 practitioners, therapists, Reiki practitioners, shamans, allopathic doctors, all kinds of people, and no one could help me figure out what was happening or what to do with it. So I struggled for 10 years with this really profound confusion of these two very disparate worlds. This normal world that everybody else can see and exist in, that was in very sharp contrast to these other worlds that I could enter into, nobody else could see, and I can't really talk about, and I can't reconcile my two worlds. So I was really, really, really confused. And in the 10th year of that confusion, all my successful normal world fell apart. Absolutely every aspect of my normal, successful life fell apart. It was like the eggs just dropped and there's no way to put them together. And this was like my home, my family, my partnership, my money, my job, everything just left. All my normalcy was gone. And the whole time, all of this spiritual stuff is just continuing to push harder and harder and harder on my psyche. So eventually, that confusion just tipped my world upside down, and I made the decision that this must all be a sign that what I'm supposed to do, that important thing I'm supposed to be doing, must be from the other side. That maybe this isn't all a sign that I'm supposed to leave this world. That wasn't anything at all that I've been shown. It's just the decision that I made in my big despair. So March of 2011, it all resulted in a big suicide attempt. So I took 97 prescription pain and sleeping pills with 3 glasses of wine. And then I laid down, I said my prayers, and just assumed that that was it. And I have to say, I have a medical background, so I was very, very meticulous in how I did all of that to make sure that everything was going to work. And then 2 days later, I just woke up. I just woke up all on my own in my apartment. I was very sick. I had no ability to control my motor skills, but I was alive. But I still woke up in the same 2 worlds that I didn't know how to exist in before the suicide attempt. So it was finally then, March 25th of 2011, that I finally just quit. I quit trying to be normal. I quit trying to understand it. I quit trying to figure it out. I quit trying to make a plan. I quit trying to just fix my life. And I just surrendered in the most profound way possible. And I remember sitting on the edge of my couch, looking out my window and saying, you know, God, you can see I have no idea what I'm doing. So if there's something you all think I'm supposed to do, then you're going to have to lead the way. I can't be the project manager for my life anymore. I can't do it. And then all the doors just started flying open. It was very quickly, literally within a few weeks, that the perfect therapist just accidentally showed up in my life. And then she trained with another psychotherapist who has he works with people in the field of consciousness with people like me. So I had 2 therapists who got me upright and well, saved my life. And then 6 months later, after that suicide attempt, I was invited to India to meet a high Tibetan Lama and tell him my story. Then I was invited to stay, and I ended up living in a Buddhist nunnery in the Himalayas for the next 7 years. And it was finally then that I just, in my stopped state, in my surrendered state, everything just came together. All of my mystical journey just began to unfold. I began to understand how all the pieces fit together and what my work was or is, which is to just share the truth of my experiences and let that truth itself, let the love that's in that truth itself do all the work, tell everybody the story in the way that it's going to tell it. And then in 2000, 3 weeks into the pandemic, the COVID pandemic, I began to channel. I was in a meditation with a friend, something just pulled my awareness to the side, and then this huge collective of divine beings just started talking through me, just started narrating through me. I experience these beings in a stadium. So there's that many of these beings in a stadium. And so since then, all of my teachings come through in a channeled state. I just close my eyes, get out of the way, and then a big teaching comes through. So I have a private community that I guide every week, and all of our teachings come through in the channeled state. And then I share my stories and do retreats and all that kind of stuff based on my mystical wisdom and all of the mystical experiences, and then the channeling that comes through as well. So that's my very big, weird background and the basis of all of the work that I do. So I don't know if there's more that you want to hear, but I'm happy to answer any questions or put things in a framework that's helpful to the people that are here.
All right, so Tiffany and Cecilia and Stan, you've all been made co-hosts, so you can help me to organize the folks who are here. If we have hands, hands can be raised, or you can simply unmute. But we do give advantage to people who cordially raise their hands, like Sila is. Hello, Sila.
Hi, all. I just want to say is that her story, spiritually speaking, is very similar to mine. It's similar as to what she went through, and then she had to recognize because it kept poking at her, or either like in my situation where it was something that kept popping up in my mind until one day I said, wait a minute, am I supposed to be doing this? You know, and some of the statements she's made, according to asking such questions like that, and the way she replied was the way I replied. Some of them same words. So I really like that, and it's a beautiful thing when what they consider strangers, and how we are truly connected to one another when having a very strong same experience, and then using some of the same words but not being said the same way. You know, a strong identification right there is that we are truly connected. So
yeah,
I identify with that, a lot of stuff you said.
Beautiful. Thank you. Thank you. You know, one of the things that I learned when I finally met the therapist who could help me, so it was 10 years of understanding. I'd never even considered that what was happening to me was mystical. I didn't even ever associate the term mystic with what was happening with me. But the therapist that came into my world right after my suicide attempt, she said, you know, you speak like a mystic speaks. You speak like the saints and the mystics of old. And they all talk of this transcendence. They talk of love. And the one thing they don't talk of is fear. There's no fearfulness in any of the message. There's no fear, there's no aggression, there's no, you know, sort of evil undertones or any of that kind of stuff. And this is how we know that it's authentic, that it's coming from the source of love itself. Because fear does not express in the divine settings. Fear is the source of a separation from love. Because fear, if you think about what the nature of fear is that it doesn't unite. It's a thing that recoils because it only knows to be afraid. So it's the very source of a separation consciousness. And that's how we know when we're getting these thoughts or these signals or these communications internally that they're coming from source, because they feel that loving, beautiful purity of wisdom. Yeah, thank you, Sila.
Kim, you were raising your hand. Oh, Kim, go ahead if you'd like.
Yeah, Kim was first.
You're muted, Kim.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I don't know how I guess you muted. Okay. Anyway, I'm very interested and I'm very spiritual. I was kind of raised like that, I guess. Not religious. I never really was into it, but some of your story is interesting. I especially was interested in when you said, I don't know, I don't want to trigger you or anything, but when you said you meticulously took, like, 'cause you're a medical professional of sorts, like, like, I had a similar situation where I took a lot of pills and I tried to, in my case, what I found is the more you take, I vomited it and it didn't work. So I'm surprised that you took that many and not. It feels to
Yeah.
me like you didn't want to die, is what I'm saying. Maybe you just, like, you knew better. Like, that's gonna just, it's overkill. You could have taken a few very strong, which I'm sure you had access to. Like, I don't know. I
Yeah.
find it interesting
Actually,
that,
that's when I say that I was very meticulous. That's exactly what I was addressing, is not throwing it up or not losing my body functions to ensure
oh,
that it didn't work. So I literally included compazine, which is an anti-nausea, and these other drugs. Like, my combination, I did it over exactly 22 minutes. I did it in the combinations of a small group, some pre-medications with the stomach, some small, medium, and large groups, which I detail all of this in. I don't want to be triggering to people here, but in my first book, Unwitting Mystic, I'm very detailed in how I did it and everything I did minute by minute. And it's really to show the miracle of surviving that, because I was so devastated. Imagine 10 years of these profound, unspeakable things that are going on, and I can't get help anywhere. I'm all alone carrying what felt like the weight of the cosmos, not just the weight of humanity, but the weight of the cosmos. And I don't have anybody that can help me. And so my intention was to absolutely not fail. So this is why I talk about it being such a miracle, such an unfathomable miracle that I survived.
it is, yeah. Because you woke up, you didn't even go to the hospital. Like, in my case, I went and they pumped my whatever. Lay there for a few days and just, yeah, that is
I was
amazing.
completely out for 2 days, yeah. And when I
Wow.
woke up, it was a long, long time because I was so sick before I could even like have any kind of function at all. Yeah.
And do you think your job that you were doing, which is very intense, because you said AIDS, Reese, like a lot of heavy, did that trigger it, you think? Because you weren't even
No, I think that it was just
spiritual.
divine timing. As it happened, prior to that happening, I'd been in clinical research for several years, and I had also been in a very close partnership, and for 8 years. And my partner fell down the stairs at home, January 3rd, 1999, and had traumatic brain injury. So basically, my partner died, and there was a different person that came after that. And so that was the end of my beautiful 8 year relationship. So when I talk about, like, all of the things kind of breaking and falling apart, it actually began even before my metaphysical experiences began. Everything just is on such a dramatic kind of scale, so that when my partner was no longer available, I'm very much alone. I'm very much on my own. And I think it was that I needed to be on my own for these big metaphysical things um, to start happening. Because if I'd still been in the relationship, I wouldn't have been available to all of this other stuff. I would have been very identified with that relationship and that partnership. So I think it was just divine timing, that this
So
is
it's
what I
like you had to you had
for.
to hit a low point, a low point. I think when you hit a really low point, maybe it's interesting. But also I was curious about the books you write because that's, takes a lot of effort, I think. It's a
Well, yes.
major achievement, I
Yeah,
think.
also, I don't think that I write them so much as I'm divinely led in writing them. I have 4 books, and I wake up writing them. I wake up with it coming out of me. And in that first book, I actually was trying to write because I'm just holding all this wisdom, all these different pieces of information, and I needed to get it out. I needed to get it out of me, and I wasn't able yet to talk about it. So I kept trying to write my memoir just to talk about these experiences. And I was trying to write it in a very informative way. Like, here's what the wisdom is, and here's what this means, and all this kind of almost didactic kind of way. And at some point, and I just kept feeling like I was choking as I was writing, but I felt like I needed to write. And then one day I remembered that I had this metaphysical experience with, I think it was Mother Teresa, Gandhi, and Jesus, and they were all walking past me. And each one as they passed said, we only did what we knew. We only did what we knew. We only did what we knew. And I had no idea what that meant. Like, what does that even mean? And then I realized in writing my book, the only thing that I know for sure is this is what happened to me. And that's when it began to be like, oh, that's all I have to write. Not what the wisdom is, but just what happened to me. And then the wisdom inherent in that information resulted in this beautiful book. And then the next book was, again, I woke up writing. And this is actually my most recent one. This is called, I love the title of this. It's called Navigating the Wondrous Holy Shit Show of Awakening. And this is because going back to that using good like a weapon, we tend to think that the only thing that's holy and sacred in our world is this beautifully packaged good world. And that's bullshit. The awakening is a mess. It's holy, it's sacred. Every bit of our stumbling mess of humanity is sacred. And so I woke up writing that book. I woke up with the title of it. So I can't really take any credit for being great at it. I feel like I'm just available to all of this love that comes out.
Wow. Okay. No, the becoming spiritually awakened is like for me, I was like, oh, I want to be self-aware, and I didn't know that was the same thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. When I
With all
talk
love,
about
pardon me,
I talk
folks.
about awakening
Pardon the
as
interruption. Pardon the
uh-huh.
interruption. We still have 3 other hands up in the
No, go,
in
go,
the
go.
room
I'm
here.
sorry.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
No.
Yes, yes. Okay, and then we definitely have Mary's information where you can go to her weekly group there.
Yes.
Go
I
ahead,
also
Dan.
let me just say one more thing, please, on the
Uh-huh.
this issue of awakening and being self-aware. I talk about awakening as being just coming into ever more of our wholeness. In other words, knowing ourselves more and more and more fully. But also that means our innate capabilities, which has gotten shut down over time, especially in the up until now. Now we're starting to awaken to remember, oh my God, I'm so much more than I've ever believed. So I just wanted to make sure that I get that in. Thank you.
Perfect. That's beautiful. Dan.
Thank you, Tiffany. Okay, so Mary Reed, you mentioned fear, and that fear is what separates us from love. So can you tell us if you have learned what are the origins of fear? Why does it exist? What is the purpose of having this fear in the universe?
Well,
man is scared.
what's that? I heard something else. So this is going to take some backing up a little bit. There was a moment, okay, I'm going to get really big here. In one of my metaphysical experiences, I went into the primordial God state, into that vast, exquisite nothingness. This is the nothing before there's any something. And it's this exquisite void. And I'm aware in that moment that I'm just awareness. I'm awareness aware of nothing. And I'm also aware that I have a singular nature. In this God state, aware of Godness as this awareness, there's only the nature of cherishing. So in my experience, what we call God, our source, is a cherishing awareness. It's not something that's aware and cherishing. Cherishing awareness is the thing. Now, in this experience, and I'm in this vast nothingness, and all of a sudden this state or the field that I'm in moves. And when there's a movement in this field, suddenly there's this flow, this movement within me, and I'm just engorged with the God source. And when that happens, there's like this awareness or this thought, these words that rise up really powerful in me. And those words were, I am goodness, and I want to be all that I am. And with those words, there's just this rocketing of me into the beginning of existence. So it's my experience of the moment that existence is, that God is. And in that impulse, in that movement, what I'm aware of is that the movement of life, the very source of existence, is simply God moving to be aware of and cherish all there is to be aware of and cherish. This is all of the movement of life, is just God being aware of itself in all these different ways. Now, in that exploration of all there is to be aware of, we're just moving around in all of these patterns. Every pattern of movement that the tiniest little vibrational scale is creating things to be aware of. And in the beginning, in our very, very early exploration of all that we are, it's a little like contrast. The awareness is happening with what we would consider in this world contrast. And you can understand that if you think, okay, everything is red, I'm red, then I don't know what red is until I encounter something like yellow. And now I know what yellow is, and I know what red is. So this is the kind of exploration that we're doing, but it's all just patterns that we're aware of. You can understand this when you hear a guitar string that's plucked. There's a vibrational pattern that gives you a sound, the sound of G, the sound of A. That's a vibrational pattern that we're experiencing. So this is how we're exploring. And everything was going along swimmingly until we encountered this pattern that we experience as fear. Now, fear is just another pattern of existence, but the nature of fear has something different about it than every other pattern, and that is that it does not unite. It's not the thing that knows itself in oneness with God. It's the thing that recoils. So the moment that we encountered fear, we went into the pattern of fear, and this is the origin of separation consciousness, of us believing that we're separate from God. Remember, I said in that first experience I ever had, every human has a thread of sorrow, and this is the source of that sorrow, our deeply held belief that we're separate from God. We did not mean, in my experience, we did not mean to make this so hard. I hear people say, you need suffering to know peace and these sorts. That's not my experience at all. We did not do this on purpose. We didn't mean to make it so complicated. We just kept perpetuating our exploration through fear. Remember, from the divine perspective, this is just more to be aware of and cherish. So fear is just as cherished as everything else. But it's the only thing that believes that it's separate. And it created all of our sort of madness in the world, because all of these offshoots then of measuring, is this okay? Is this good? Is this bad? It created the good and the bad paradigm of our world so we could know if we're safe, right? But these are false setups. They're just the world of fear. So we live immersed in this blindness, believing that we're separate. And what's happening now is that we're realizing, oh my God, we've been blind all this time, and we're starting to wake up. This is the awakening to remember, oh, all of this is sacred, including our pain, including our suffering, including fear. And in my world, in my work, fear is our loudest cry for love. It's the thing that carries the origin of our suffering, the origin of our pain. So imagine how much suffering fear carries in us. You see, so we have a sacred relationship when we can come in and love even our fear. It's the thing that brings fear back home. Make sense? That was a good question. That prompted a very big answer.
No.
Okay, we have Chaplain James here. And then
I'm
Kira.
always ready. You don't even have to ask. Mary, you interest me a lot. I like I like your story, and it shows me progress. No earthly people can help you with this because you're it's something that's above their level. You see what I'm saying? Whether you want to believe this or not, no book taught person, psychologist, psychiatrist, anything like that, only but the very few you said you happen to meet can help you with this. You see what I'm saying?
Yes, well,
Because
those are the people that could help me with my mental struggle with all of this. The
yeah,
metaphysical piece, I never struggled with the metaphysical wisdom itself because it's so exquisite, it's so loving, it's so profound, it's so nourishing, it's so resonant. But learning how to be a human living with all of that, I definitely needed psychological help with. I don't now, but I
yeah.
definitely did then because
No,
that
but
was,
what
my
you had
depression.
to do, what only thing you have to do is relish in it and trust in it. You see what I'm saying? But as I said, man or woman with fear, it's a limiting factor with us, and that's how we basically use it. We get scared, and we
That's
don't
right.
because it's different. No one can understand it. No one can help you with it. Just relish in your abilities. I call them abilities because that's a rare ability that you have. So relish in it, absorb yourself in it, and learn from it. That's all. And I put my information in the chat. We should consult.
Okay, okay, thank you. I want to just say a note on relationship with fear. So I mentioned in that the Christ crucifixion scene that it was a fear and conflict ideology that resulted in the crucifixion, and then that ideology continued on in different ways. That means that we continue to have the same kind of relationship of wanting that good Christ that conquered. And one of the things that we use that Christ energy for, that goodness for, is to try to conquer our fear. And that's not
Yeah,
my relationship with fear at all. The last
yeah,
thing that fear is asking for is to be conquered, because that's just a rejection. And remember, rejection or separation is the source of our sorrow.
yes,
Rejection is the source of separation consciousness. So everything is asking to be embraced. Everything is asking to be embraced.
right,
So it's not until we have a different relationship with absolutely everything that we've been trying to conquer that we can really heal. The source of healing is the embrace of all of it, to remember that it's all divine. It's all from the exact same source. We've just been believing differently about it. So I
right.
think that specifically for the
And
fear here,
that's
here.
beautiful, Mary. That's beautiful because that's man relating to his thinking again
Yeah.
in his little limited world. You see what I'm saying?
Yep.
And that's what I believe because when you find you have powers and you relish yourself in it, you don't have fear. Nothing can stop you. Nothing will. You know what I'm saying? It's a greatness that you can just cherish, and you
Yeah.
feel differently than most
Yep.
will or can.
That's right, because you're without limitation.
There you go. See,
Yeah.
that's your ability when you're going to a different level. You
Yep.
know what I'm saying? Where few people have attained. That's why you're basically alone. No one can help you because
That's
they
right.
don't understand.
Yeah, but we're in a world now where there's more and more and more people. Some of them have visited you all here that are coming into these things, some through near-death experience, some through spiritually transformative experience. I do have a very rare scale of these experiences. I have an extremely big continuum, but more and more people are definitely waking up, which is precisely the awakening, coming into ever more of our wholeness, is remembering what we're capable of, remembering that we're capable of
Yes,
awareness that's direct connection to God. Yeah.
yes. And remember, you between you and the next person, it's far between. So you have to carry on by yourself, and hopefully y'all could make contact and talk and things like that, and you can get in strength, strengthened by that, and be able to carry on. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I'm very lucky now. I actually know a lot of people and can relate and find support in others as well. Yeah, thank you.
Let's turn to Kira. Thank you, Mary, for your response. Kira, what's up?
Hi, thank you. Thank you for sharing your story. You answered one of my questions. One of my questions was going to be if love and fear are primal, why is one better than the other? Like, if we should love our fear, why shouldn't we also fear our love? And but you answered that. You said
Can I
that
just say, let me
it's all
just say,
sacred.
yeah, let me just say one thing on that. I love that, the way that you phrased that. Um, in my world, I would say that there is love that remembers its love, that it is love. And then there's love that forgot it is love. And that piece is fear. Fear is just love that forgot its love.
I guess I just since like all living beings have fear, I guess to like my concern is then to further feel, like the second arrow, from Buddha, like further, feel bad about ourselves or fearful about who we are because we feel fear, rather than like love ourselves. That's what I thought you said, like love our fear, love all, and fear our
Exactly.
love, and
What if that
like
fear
all
is
of
the
it.
thing? That fear is a thing to be loved within us as well. It's the thing crying out loudest for love within us. So, first of all, it's not my experience that all living things, which I experience everything as having consciousness, even this table or dirt or whatever. And I don't experience that it all has fear. I experience fear as a very dense vibrational energy. And you might imagine why that would be. If you think about oneness or God being this really high frequency energy, and then you have something that pulls away from it. It's a very dense, slow vibrational energy. And you can understand this like in the like a building. You have the basement, the first floor, second floor, or whatever, and then you have the penthouse. So the first floor has a very narrow view. It can't really see the bigger perspective. It's only experiencing what's in the basement. But the higher you go, the bigger the perspective, and that basement energy isn't expressing. So by the time you get to the penthouse, you have a hell of a lot of, broad perspective and access to greater view. But in the basement, that doesn't happen. So the higher we go, fear doesn't express. It doesn't mean that it's not there, but you have to come back down to a denser energy to experience fear. So in our human reality, in the human experience, we're living in a dense field where fear can express. But even in this reality, people like me, as we get higher and higher sort of in our vibrational state, fear doesn't express.
I
So
mean,
I don't have any kind of negative relationship or rejecting relationship with fear at all.
no, I appreciate that. Is what you're saying with the vibrational, you know, is that also like within our, bodies and systems? I mean, would you say that like fear is more, in our, gut, where love is more, in our heads, or how would
Well,
you?
we don't need to put it spatially because I don't experience things in that kind of linear kind of way. It's more multidimensional. And you might think of it just like in a sphere. Everything's just moving around in the sphere. And sometimes there's denser pockets and sometimes there's lighter pockets, but that sphere is kind of rolling around. And so it's never just stationary sort of thing. We have ebbs and flows and all kinds of experiences. And when we come into, for example, a room where there's lots of different energies going on in a room where there's a bunch of different people. You can kind of feel when there's people that are contracted, people that are very open. We can sense, we have the ability to kind of move fluidly through these sorts of things. And if I wanted to, I'm sure that I could probably come into kind of a fear state. For example, I use this example often. I mean, fear can come along on the journey. I don't have to indulge fear. So, for example, I use this example of paragliding, where I used to live in the Himalayas, about an hour down the mountain ranges, where they had the world champion paragliding contest. And I've been there and I've done the paragliding. And the way that that happens is that you're standing at the edge of a cliff and you have an Indian guy strapped to your back, and then he's got a parachute strapped to his back, and the two of you just take off running and you jump off the cliff. Now, of course, fear is very present on that adventure, but fear's not making the decision about whether or not I jump. Right? Fear is just coming along. Fear's the thing that gives you that nervous exhilaration and you still leap, right? So you can have the fear, it can be here, but it doesn't have to be the thing that identifies our course. It doesn't make the decision for us, right? And this is what we're used to in the human experience. We very much make our decisions based in fear. This is why we have a safe paradigm of life, why you work and save, so you're safe, why you have a home, so you're safe. Why, like, safety is a very big thing because everything is framed in fear. And as we come out of this more and more, we stop having the fear and we turn more and more to trust in divine supply, divine connection, divine abundance, right? So everything that we're losing the fear identity with is being replaced with a divine abundance of opportunity and resource and things like that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I thank you for that. I mean, I guess, yeah, yes, it does. And I guess for me, the way, like, I'm thinking that approaching things with both fear and love, that's what makes sense to me. But
Absolutely.
I mean, and it's helping me understand that more by listening to you. So I appreciate that a lot.
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
appreciate what you're saying.
Bring fear along. Bring fear along. I have a practice. I've had this practice for a long time. Anytime I see something that pops up in me, it used to be more fear, but occasionally, like a guilt or a sadness or something like that. The moment that I see it, the moment I'm aware of it, my practice is to say, "Oh, I see you, darling. Come on in." And then I go for a walk, or I have some tea, or I play some music, or whatever. I don't stop and indulge that energy and ask me to tell it its story and all that sort of stuff. I just say, "Yeah, you're welcome here as well." And then I just continue on. So what I'm inviting it into is all the love that I am. Everything that I feel, and I say, "Darling, come on in." I'm inviting it into love. You see, so love doesn't have to be, it's not an either or, it's all. We can't come into ever more of our wholeness and leave anything behind. This is why I say it's all about the embrace.
Thank you.
You're so welcome.
Brian, you have, excuse me, Jose, you have your hand up and you've been waiting patiently. Thank you.
Thank you. I was just wondering, you've been through therapy and you've been through your trip abroad that lasted 7 years, I believe you said. How did that inform you? I mean, what did you learn through that process? Was it important in your healing and understanding, or, talk a little bit about that if you can.
Are you talking
Thank
about the
you.
7 years in the nunnery in India?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, it was extraordinarily important because, first of all, I'm not religious. Even though it was a Buddhist nunnery, I didn't attend the teachings. I just lived at the nunnery and got the support there from the community. So it was extremely important for me to have that quiet time where I didn't have worldly responsibilities. I didn't have to worry about the bills. I didn't have to worry about transportation. I didn't have to worry about insurance and all those kinds of things that we get stressed about in the human experience. And I don't have children. I didn't have a partner. So I was very free to be able to just be quiet and let everything begin to coalesce. All those years of the experiences coming together. And I continued to have bigger metaphysical experiences while I was there as well. So when we have a metaphysical experience, when we have a near-death experience or a spiritually transformative experience, it takes many years to integrate those things into our sense of understanding and being. To be able to live with them, but also to be able to apply all of the lessons and the understandings. It takes many, many years. So those years in the nunnery were extremely important for me to be able to just let it all come in and peacefully kind of bring some balance and reframing, reorienting of me, my understanding of me, who I am, what I'm doing here, what is happening, etc. And through that time, so I wrote my book two years into staying in the nunnery. And then when I published my book, every summer I would go on tour and I would go to Europe or America or whatever, and I would do book talks, which was also very helpful and important for me to begin to talk publicly, to come out as a mystic and really have this whole different level of self-acceptance. It's one thing to be like, I can accept that I'm short, that I'm this, that I'm that, but it's a whole other thing to be accepting oneself publicly that you're a mystic, that you have like a whole different level of these experiences. So that began this journey of self-acceptance, which is part of the big divine lesson. It's part of what's happening here in the awakening as well. So those were really, really pivotal years for me. And I moved back the year right before the pandemic. So as divine timing would have it, I didn't have to be in India during the pandemic. I could be in the Western comforts during the pandemic.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank
Very
you.
welcome. Thank you.
Hey, Tiffany or Stan or Cecilia, have you been reading the chat? I don't really have access to it. Is there anything good happening in the chat that we should bring up, you guys?
Oh yes, the chat has been going off, and we can start at the very beginning, which I think that was okay. R&R says, what do you think would have happened to mankind if the DSM had been written before the Bible?
What's the DSM?
I'm not sure.
Is the diagnostic DSM diagnostic book that tells you?
It tells you
I answered that
all the
question
mental
for
health.
you.
It's like the Bible for psychiatry and therapy.
Yes, and I answered that
Hold
question
on,
for you.
let me explain further. It's got every diagnosis imaginable to be billable by insurance. Okay, so that's the DSM. It's like a dictionary of mental illness.
That's hysterical. Well, that's a fun question, but I don't answer any questions that require me to make any guesses. I only can ever talk about the things that I've experienced, and all of my answers are based on actual embodied experience. So since I haven't experienced that, it would just be conjecture. I don't know.
Okay, Mary, that's fair enough. We'll move along down the line. Amrita says, your story and the way you describe your experience is so similar and yet not to what I've experienced. It's kind of chilling, but also comforting. Thank you. Which I think was more of a comment, which I like. Everyone seems to have that same mantra with your experience and how similar it is to theirs, which is chilling and wonderful. Question for Mary. Thank you for your time. You mentioned meeting Mother Teresa, Gandhi, and other famous saints. Are there any notable experiences with spirits we wouldn't recognize because they were not known to the world?
Oh, that's a great question. Actually, well, first of all, I do a lot of consultations. I do consultations daily. And I have a big global community that I guide every Sunday, and then we have a book group on Wednesdays. So there's a lot of metaphysical experiences that happen in people that I work with, and they encounter lots and lots of different entities. Some that are specific to them, their guides or their, galactic beings or things like that. I don't have any relationship with galactic sort of stuff. I've never encountered that kind of thing at all. But in my own work, in my own experiences, anytime that I experience somebody like a light being, it's not anything specific. It's just an energy, and it's no particular shape. It's very translucent and it's very ethereal, and there's no particular identity with that. The ones that I've experienced are known: Archangel Michael, Gandhi, Mother Teresa, Buddha, Jesus, those sorts of things. And you can always tell exactly their energy. Even so, I didn't have any kind of religious upbringing, but the energy of Archangel Michael, very, very specific. This is Archangel Michael. Jesus, very specific. Buddha, very specific. Their energy signatures are very, very overt. But other beings, there's been a whole wide range of beings that I've experienced that didn't necessarily have any kind of identity for me. Now, other people, lots and lots of people have experienced different kinds of entities. Yeah.
Yes. Thank you. That was a question from Gagan. And the next question is from Anya. What counters fear so that we can unite? I'm very enlightened by your story, and I'm interested in your opinion if you care to comment.
One encounters, would you say that again? Encounters fear so we can unite?
Yes, what counters fear so that we can unite?
Oh, what counters fear? Yeah, love. Love is the thing that responds to fear in an embracing and inviting way. Love is the thing that says to fear, oh, you too are precious, darling. Come on in. Come on into this experience. Oftentimes in my consultations, when there's an experience of we're going into union with my guides in the stadium where I experience them, that brings up a lot of fear for people. It's a big environment. They're worried about self-worth or being worthy of this, or whether they're going to have to perform, or whether they're going to do it right, etc. So all kinds of fear pops up with that. And the first thing that my guides say, love says, that's okay. The fear can come in too. That's okay. So love is always the thing that embraces fear like a precious child, like an absolutely precious child, to say, oh, darling, come on in.
I love that. Thank you. I hope you like that too, Anya. Anya asks again.
I like that. Thank you.
Oh, good, Anya. I do too. Oh, so very much. And I think Anya says again to everyone, Dan, thank you for letting me be here. And Mary and Chaplain James, I find your comments about fear, among all else, very helpful. That's very nice, Anya. And then Anya asked again, can fear turn into anger? And wondering how this expresses itself in the way you describe as vibrational.
Yes, absolutely. That's a great question. Yes, fear can actually frequently come out in anger. When you think about what anger is, it's fear under pressure. It's fear that feels so frustrated with no outlet that we become angry. And if at its core, anger is a form of grief. It's a grief with nowhere, it's a love with nowhere to go. It's a love that doesn't have any kind of connection or release. And so fear can manifest not just in anger, also judgment and belligerence and blame and all kinds of things. Fear is the origin of all of these conflict-based energies, because we don't have those things expressing in the divine realms. We don't have conflict in the divine realms because we're not in conflict. So fear is the basis of all conflict kinds of energies. It's just the way that fear has created its own world and reactionary impulses, reactionary patterns. So all of those conflict-based energies are the energies that are in the basement. They're all in that denser kind of thing, which means that they're under pressure, right? It's the thing that feels, this is why it feels so frustrating, why it feels so painful, why it feels so lonely, right? And why it feels so heavy. The human experience is extremely heavy. We all know what it feels like to just be exhausted from life, from trying to get it right, trying to figure it out, trying to be okay. It's exhausting. Yeah, that's right. That's very exhausting because we're not tied into our source. And the thing that's carrying all of that weight, all that burden, fear. All of these heavy energies that fear has created and manifested through, that we've all been party to. But it didn't mean to do it. At its core, it's innocent. It's just trying to stay safe. Fear is just trying to make sure that we're all okay at its core. And that creates a lot of pressure in those denser energies. And some of that comes out as anger. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Anya. I hope you received that as well. And we're moving on to Sila. I just want to say some say fear is not real, such as false evidence appearing real and illusion, while others say it is an alarm, an ancient system for safety.
Well, the idea of saying that fear isn't real isn't helpful because we do experience fear. And so if we're experiencing fear, it's real to us, right? There's to put it in a theoretical sense of it not being real doesn't really help the human experience when we're really dealing with fear, when we're struggling with it, when we've been hampered by it, when, you know, it doesn't give us an opportunity to love that aspect of existence as well.
Stuart has his hand up. Go ahead, Stuart.
Oh, hello. Hi, everybody. Wow, Mary, very, very powerful story. I really can relate to it in some of the things that I'm trying to do in my life and bring a certain message of peace, being at peace with where we're at and who we are, and that at the end of the day, we're all, like you said, a part of something much bigger. That's how we start. That's where
Yep.
we start. And then this energy that you talk about comes in and kind of takes us away from that energy, being our own thoughts or, you know, our circumstances. And I found it interesting, the statement that you made about how you feel that now is a time of awakening. And it's very interesting because a lot of people would say, what are you talking about? I mean, look at the world, look what's happening. And you know, throughout my life, I've had different things happening where the thinking, the fear took over, and I wasn't able to see my way out of it until it just left. It just went away, and then I saw something more. Something else was able to come in to me, and me realizing who I am, despite what other people were saying about me or to me. And that realization is the most precious thing about who we are and what we really are at the core of it, and being able to, you know, be okay wherever we're at.
Yeah.
And I just find that right now, I think a lot of people are believing in the fear. They're really holding on to that and not realizing that we are all going through this. We're all doing this together.
Yes.
It reminds me of stories where people hear about certain groups of people and they believe it, and then when they actually meet that person that's part of that group, it's like, what was that about? That wasn't even real. That wasn't really the truth, but I believed it. But it's okay because it's innocent. I really like what you said about it's innocent. You know, it's a misunderstanding.
Yes, yes. And, you know, in our world, in our very confusing world, we're all just doing the best we can. Like everybody's just doing the best we can, right? So I want to say two things about what you just mentioned. First of all, I have a brand new video that I just put out from a talk that I did a little over a week ago, I think, or 2 weeks ago in Maine. And it's talking about what the new consciousness can teach us. And it talks a lot about, that talk begins with looking at what we were taught by the old consciousness, which is to focus on the fear, to focus on the weightiness, the heaviness, or whatever, and understanding who has kept perpetuating that. And so in our world now, when we're like really pulled in or magnetized to that fear, who taught us to do that? Like, who benefits from our continued focus in that fear? And the only thing that benefits from that is everybody supporting the old consciousness, right? The people in the news who say, stay tuned, there's more to fear, there's more to, there's more drama, stay tuned, right? So just understanding, why we're constantly pulled to focus on that, but also understanding that this madness, quote, madness that we see in our world today, that all of this confusion that seems so much greater than it ever has been before is not an accident. If we think about in our awakening, the hardest thing to awaken to is really taking a different relationship path with all of our difficult feelings, all of the fear, all of the pain, all of the suffering, all of the confusion, all of the conflict, all of those basement energies, right? In our awakening, all of this divine energy that is infusing into our collective consciousness now, it's going to the source. This isn't about healing things at the surface. This is about healing things deep in the crevices of humanity. It's going to pull it all up to be included in this healing. And that's exactly what's happening. All of this chaos that we see, it isn't an accident that it's come up at a time where we're all connected and we can virtually experience the madness all at the same time, because nothing's going to be left behind. The pain that is in the deepest crevices of humanity is now up for all of us to see and all of us to have a different relationship to it, right? And in order to do that, we have to relate to it differently. We have to look at it differently. We have to be a different presence in the presence of all of this. We're not fear addressing fear. We're not anger addressing fear. We're not conquering addressing fear. We're love addressing fear. We're love addressing conflict. We're love addressing our suffering. You see? So this talk will help you sort of look at how am I in relationship to all of this, but also then to see the world in general in a very, very different way, that this is all really a good indication that everything in the deepest crevices of humanity is going to be included in this great healing. We didn't come here to play small. None of us that are here at this time in humanity's evolution, none of us came here to play small. We all came as a great act of love, every one of us. We came to learn, we came to teach, we came to help, we came to anchor in the divine energies, we came to be the yearning. All of you are on this call because you're interested in spirituality. You're interested in spirituality at a very key time in human evolution. You too came here to be part of the great healing.
Wow. Thank you for that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary.
You're welcome.
That is so celebratory. Thank you so much for being here. Tiffany, you do have your hand raised up, and then we'll go to you, Lori, next.
Yeah, when I think about the question, the human part of me that wants to challenge is the one that has the question. When like it's really clear, I think what you're saying, it's clear. It's just embrace it. And that's difficult, that's a difficult one there. And in one of my religious teachings, it's like, why isn't even a question, right? Because my question is like, why is there fear? Why is there love? Why is there any of this stuff? Like, where did it come from? Why are we here? When you saw that string between us, did you get to the root of this, of
Yes.
why this is?
Yes,
Why
I
do
did.
we have fear? Why do we have love?
Fear is
What
just
was the
another thing to be cherished. It's another thing to be aware of and cherish. Look, in our exploration, in all that we've learned through fear, we've learned so much. Well, yes, it's been extremely hard, but also we've learned so much. And one of the things that we've learned is that we're so powerful as love, we can even love the source of all of our suffering.
I want the past to matter. And you're making me realize that the past doesn't matter, and I still want the past to matter.
Well, I think the past matters a great deal.
Where did it come from? What was the
all
kickoff?
came from the evolution of exploring all there is to be aware of and cherish. We're exploring all that we are. Look at all that we are. Look at the madness we can create. Look at the, when you get to the higher and higher divine perspectives, it all looks remarkably different. But we can also be aware at a very acute level of how painful it is. And again, we are such powerful beings that we can even love the source of all of our sufferings. And this is what we're coming to realize. This specifically, this is what we're coming to realize.
It
That when
doesn't
I
matter
say we're
where.
here for the great act of love, this is what I
Yeah.
mean. That our love is so great, we can say to the deepest pain of humanity, darling, you can come home now.
Yeah. It doesn't matter where it came from. It doesn't matter what it been through. It's the prodigal son.
Yes, exactly.
And it can come back.
Exactly right. I've heard that a lot. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Tiffany, you see what I wrote?
No, I don't.
Check it out.
Before we move on to that, Lori has been waiting patiently. I'm sorry, Tiffany, did you have another?
No, that was it.
That was grand. As all, Tiffany just has this way of asking and answering questions. She's amazing.
Thank
and
you.
we love her. But Lori, please, if you would.
Thank you. I just want to thank you so much for, I don't know if can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Yes.
For today, I started reading about this 30 years ago in a book by Gerald Jampolsky, Love is Letting Go of Fear. And then later with David Hawkins, who took me a little further. But I feel like your download was so, it's like they were peeking through a crack and you just opened the window to a whole much bigger space than the people who've come before you. And something is so, it's just in my heart in such a way, I can't tell you. So thank you so much.
Thank
and
you.
This, the new consciousness, is that something you can access?
It's something that you are already. And so it's just about allowing ourselves to be available to it. And so in that talk, I talk about how we can do that, the ways that we can sort of very easily ask ourselves very simple questions, like, for example, how am I showing up in this moment? What am I focused on? I talk in that talk about the mechanism of creation. I went into the actual mechanism of creation and I saw how we create. And it's so simple. It's so simple. How am I focused and what am I intending? Those two are patterns. They're little reflective patterns that as they rotate around each other, they create a manifest awareness of experience. And I know that from my very first, like going into the primordial God state, when I said that there was movement and those words, I am goodness and I want to be all that I am, just rocketed me into the beginning of evolution. My focus was, I am goodness or godness. My intention was, I want to be all that I am. And those two things into creation. So in our awakening world, when we think about the new consciousness, what am I focused on? And what am I intending? Right? So when we ask ourselves those questions, we can let ourselves be available to that higher consciousness. I can be focused on receiving, or I can be focused on something more playful or light or whatever than the old consciousness things. Make sense?
Yes, thank you. So focus and consciousness, right?
Focus and intention. So if you listen to that talk, you'll get all of the little details. I detail it very methodically.
Is there a website or something?
You can go to my website. It's on the blog there, but it's also on my YouTube channel. My website is lovemaryreed.com. And if you go to my blog, you'll see that particular talk there.
Okay.
What is the title on YouTube?
Huh?
Yeah,
Oh,
what the new consciousness teaches us.
okay. Thank you. Thank you
You're
so
very
much.
welcome. You're very welcome. I think you'll enjoy that talk.
You have a listen to this class.
Reflective Rita has hand up and maybe a question. Reflective Rita.
Hi, Mary. Thank you so much. What you just said reminded me of something that I had long forgotten, but it was something that was gifted to me a while ago. And it was a verse from the Bible that says, "Be still and know that I am God." But it told me that's not the end of the verse. Start saying it backwards. So you go, "Be still and know that I am God." And then drop off the last word, "Be still and know that I am." Drop that off, "Be still and know." Drop that off, "Be still." Drop that off, and it's be.
Yeah, yeah. On that note, hang on. I will share with you the words given to me by Jesus, very much in that same vein. So the chapter looks like this. You can see it comes down to just the beginning here. And these are words that Jesus gave to me that says, these are the words that come from the place of perfect love and wisdom. These are the words to be from the heart. These are the words to be taken in and lived. And it is, I am. I am the way of love, the truth of love, and the luminous light of love. Where the rhythm of awareness beats in the heart, I am Christ. Where trust prevails and fear is no more, I am Christ. I am pure compassion, kindness, and wisdom. I am absolute peace and love. I am all possibility. I am all I am. Exact same thing.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Yeah, you're very welcome.
You know what I like?
That's
I
from my
like the way Jesus only needs a couple words. It doesn't have sentences or paragraphs, a couple words, and he gets it all out. Thank you, God.
Yeah, this is what we call the conveyance. Actually, when we begin to ascribe words to things, we start diminishing it because we have an association with a definition of different words. And what we really mean is something much fuller, much richer. And so when we have those words that are really eloquent, that are really piercing, that can convey a lot, it really, you can tell it's coming from the divine source. By the way, this painting right here is called I Am.
Beautiful.
All right. Well, Mary, we have about 5 minutes left in the home stretch. And I think, how about we give everyone a chance to just reflect for the next 2 minutes, and then we'll get back to Mary. That means my co-facilitators, can we mute everyone, including ourselves, and we'll be silent for a couple minutes? I'll keep my eye on the clock.
I have a question first.
Oh,
Why is
Chaplain
Mary's
James.
contact information not in the chat?
Don't worry, Chaplain James. After the silence, I'll bring that up and we'll deal with it, okay? All right.
Okay.
Here we go, you guys. All right. All right. So, Mary, I have a favor to ask of you. Could you put together a paragraph with all the links you want us to, all the books you want us to buy, all the links, everything, and I'll email it to everyone. I hope I have everyone's email address. And Rita, you'll get it so that you could send it on to the folks that you invited here too. And is that okay, Mary? Can you do that
Yeah,
for me?
absolutely. Yeah, you
All
bet.
right. All right. Now, Mary, can you close us out with some parting words?
Would you mind if I read something from The Prophetess, which is, I think, a perfect sort of wrap up for this group? Is that all right?
Please.
All right. Let's see if we can get through this. This is a wonderful book. It's a follow-up to Khalil Gibran's The Prophet, and this is written by a woman. It's just released 100 years after The Prophet. So this is this is a chapter on self-worth. Speak to us of self-worth, and the prophetess spoke. Be done with small, meek prayers. There's a surging ocean of light within you. Ask that it flood the world. Enough gifts have been placed within you to satisfy eternity. Ask that they be brought forth and unwrapped. Be done playing small. Ask that your voice soar high enough to kiss the sun and come back to share her stories of light with the world. Why think it unseemly to ask precisely for the vastness of desires that have been placed in your chest to show themselves? We are temples holding the Great One. Would it not bring joy to all creation to make the mysteries and delights of our universe reveal themselves through you? You are the boldness of the universe that knows its potential is uncontainable. Be ready to expand into wondrous realms of yourself. Be ready to receive the great astonishment of all you might unfold to be. Put yourself forward and see how great beauty may rise to meet you. We must reframe the sphere of being too much. We contain the universe and must practice receiving all that we are. Go forth, glorious too much ones, and pour your rivers of light that quench the world. Go forth and feed every ravenous soul from the generous table of your heart, knowing your essence is one of feast, not famine. Go forth and live in a way that reminds people how abundantly luminous each night is, bedecked in her stars. Let your too much one be your devotion. God, after all, is the queen of too much, polyamorous with every religion and every heart as she is, and she does not stop making her point after only one galaxy. Your heart was made to be a gong, not a penny whistle. Your beauty is a downpour, not a sprinkle. Your voice is a nourishing meal for this hungry world, not a garnish. Your too much has been a tight judgment that tries to tie down your vastness and contain the cosmos within you. Reclaim it and pour forth your stars. Reclaim it and become just the right size to hold the universe.